Hello, and welcome to Peak Design Group's Enscape web tutorial. Today, we're going to teach you. To start, we're going to hit the H key on our keyboard, and that's going to pull up the command menu here. So here we have our movement commands, moving with the arrow keys, and using the E and Q keys to fly up and down. To change our motion, we can walk faster by holding the Shift key. We can walk even faster by holding the Control key, or to go as fast as possible, holding the Shift and Control keys at the same time. To switch between fly and walk mode, we can hit the space bar. We can open our mini-map if we press the M button. Now I can also rotate my view around the model so that as I'm moving around, I get to see different portions of the model. Or, using my right mouse click, I can orbit around the model here. Now when I'm orbiting around the model, my view is going to rotate around wherever my mouse is on the view. So if I mouse over the handicap spot, hold right click and orbit, we can see I'm rotating around that parking spot. Now the last command here is to change the time of day. To do that, I'm going to hold the Shift key, click the right mouse button, clicking and holding, I just move my cursor across the screen, and that's going to change the time of day for me. Now over here, we have additional settings. We have additional settings to change the visual style as well as our input. So to start, we're going to look at our rendering style, and there's none, which just shows the model as it was exported from Enscape. There's a white mode, which turns everything white. And then there's polystyrol, which presents the model as a polystyrol model, as if it were handmade. We also have outlines, in which we can change the outlines on any lines to define them better, or to give it a cell shading appearance. We can also change our exposure, turning auto exposure on and off. If we were to turn auto exposure off and then change our time of day, we would get a different view of our model than if we were to have auto exposure on. If we turn off auto exposure, then we have manual control over the exposure brightness itself. We can also set our field of view to be zoomed out or to be zoomed into our model. Going over to input, we can change our mouse speed. We can change mouse smoothing, which just means that if we have a faster mouse, we're not going to be dragging it in a choppy manner across the screen. We've got movement speed, which we can set all the way from 0.1 to 3, and that will affect how quickly we can move around the model, and how quickly we move around the model with and without the Shift and Control keys. Next up, we have spectator height, which changes the eye level, along with the spectator width, which just determines the width of opening that the spectator is allowed to pass through. I'm going to drop down to the ground right now, so we can see how those settings actually affect things. Now that we're in walk mode, we can tell we're in walk mode because over here we have feet instead of wings. We can see that the spectator height will change the eye level of your camera. The spectator width, we won't see that visually, but if we were to try to walk through a very narrow area and we couldn't pass through, we would have to change our spectator width, then we'd be able to pass through there. We can also invert the mouse X and Y axes. That's not really recommended because now we're moving in a backwards manner. I'm going to mouse click to rotate, so left mouse click, and then move my mouse over to the left, and my view moves to the right. Same thing, now I'm going to move up, and my mouse here is going to move down. So I'm mousing up on my keypad, but on the computer it's mousing down. So changing these settings here is not recommended. Now, lastly, up in the top right, we have two icons. One shows us our walk mode versus our fly mode, so how we navigate around the model. The other one here changes us from perspective to 2-point or orthographic view mode. so that we can change the way that we see the model itself. And I'm just going to play around with that right now. So here we get a few different methods of actually viewing the model. Typically, perspective is the best way to view the model, as that is the most accurate representation of how humans will see things ourselves. That sums up all of the different commands for the Enscape web export and enables you to walk through any of the models that you receive from Peak or any other design company where you have this web export. Have a good day.